Welcome back, fast food fans. Today, we have the Candy Bar Cheesecake Brawl. What we have from the Cheesecake Factory is a Hershey's Chocolate Cheesecake, a Butterfinger Cheesecake, a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Cheesecake, and a Snickers Cheesecake. I'm a huge fan of cheesecake and candy bars. Can't wait to get into this one. Let's crush some calories.
Fast food, face up! Fast food, face up!
Originating in a Detroit, Michigan basement in the 1940s, Evelyn Overton found a recipe in her local newspaper that would inspire a cheesecake empire. With the help of her son David, the first official Cheesecake Factory restaurant opened its doors in Beverly Hills, California in 1978. With more than 34 cheesecake varieties and a 21-page menu that has over 250 items, the Cheesecake Factory has opened over 200 locations worldwide and has been on Fortune's 100 Best Companies to Work For since 2014.
First up, we have the Hersheys Inspired Chocolate Cheesecake. These things have long and elaborate names, so we'll have that posted up somewhere, probably right about here. I did candy bars for the cheesecake review because it was a little bit more concise as far as how long the Cheesecake Factory menu is. There's like 44 different cheesecakes, and I know you're probably asking yourself, Josh, you have Godiva and you have Ghirardelli. That's candy, right? When I think of those two companies, I definitely think more, deluxe chocolate than I do think candy bar. I feel like these four definitely go together. So, without further ado, let's get into that first bite. There's a lot of different layers of chocolate happening here. You got this mousse base in the middle. They also have two layers of chocolate cake. One on the bottom and then kind of sandwiching that mousse, and then kind of almost like a whipped ganache frosting on top, and then they also put chocolate chips, which they are Hershey's chocolate chips to boot. Extremely rich, extremely decadent. I understand why they had to cut this one with cake, because if you made this a full slice of cheesecake, you probably would have most people be hard pressed to get through just the one slice. Initial thoughts on it: very, very good. Right up my alley. Huge fan of chocolate, especially Hershey's chocolate. What I also appreciate about this is that it's Hershey's chocolate. A lot of people don't know this, but what makes Hershey's chocolate different than a lot of other milk chocolates is the way in which they make the chocolate with the milk fats. I had recently watched something where basically they kind of scold the milk in order to make the chocolate taste the way that it does. That kind of little tang or that little something on the back end that you get from Hershey's chocolate that you don't get from others. That's the reason why. And it's a proprietary thing for Hershey's. I also think that it's nice that Cheesecake Factory, for all their slices of cheesecake, they always put like a little dollop of whipped cream. It lightens everything up a little bit, especially something as rich as this. Let you guys get a little close-up action there. I am curious to see how this stacks up with the other cheesecakes, in the sense that there was a good amount of cake kind of cutting through the layer of cheesecake mousse that they had, and the other ones are a little bit more solid cheesecake. So texturally, I'm curious to see how they stack up against one another. Last bite, really good. Like I said before, definitely my kind of cheesecake with the chocolate, especially it being Hershey's chocolate, and it was good all the way through. It wasn't like I got tired of it, the richness. The only thing that I would say I think is lacking is maybe a bit of a crunch. A cookie crunch or something else in there might have kind of elevated it to being even that much better, but still a really good cheesecake. So this is the Reese's Peanut Butter Cheesecake. Again, very complicated names. The name will be posted here. This looks like it has layers of what I believe chocolate cake, some sort of a peanut butter cream, a cheesecake base, I'm not sure if there's peanut butter in that as well. Definitely a chocolate ganache kind of glaze on top, and then it looks like there might be peanuts in there. Don't know if they're honey roasted. This looks delicious. I'm a huge fan of peanut butter. Let's see how this stacks up. It's almost hard to eat this without smiling. So as you can see, I'm still smiling. This is just really, really good. For anybody who is not only just a peanut butter fan, but a fan of what Reese's does, you get that little something, that flavor, that certain salt balance that Reese's peanut butter has that other peanut butters don't. You get pretty close to that with this cheesecake. The chocolate doesn't overpower it. You get the crunch and the texture from the nuts. The cake cutting through the center was nice because it cuts through some of the richness of what a peanut butter cheesecake would be. It's just on the cusp of too rich, but in a really appealing way. And then this little dollop here of what I imagine is some sort of like a peanut butter whipped mousse or something. It's a very, very good cheesecake. Very good impression on the first bite. As I get further into the cheesecake, there's still not really much in the way of complaints or anything that I would say as far as general improvements. It is a little decadent, it is a little rich, so for most people, just letting you know when you order this, expect it to be so. This is going to be one of those things that if you have this after a meal at Cheesecake Factory, which is already usually pretty large portions, wear your comfy pants.
When you're a man, sometimes you wear stretchy pants.
This is a decadent cheesecake. Now that I'm kind of almost done with the cheesecake, it has a textural component with the nuts, and then on the back end, if you guys can see it, there's little kind of chocolate chips there. The nuts are nice, but there just maybe wasn't enough of them, so I'd say either maybe make a little bit more effort to put more nuts in here, or something like a peanut butter cookie base instead of like the graham base you normally get with cheesecakes would have been a nice compliment. But other than that, again, super happy, really good cheesecake. So up next, we got the Snickers. Growing up, Snickers was absolutely my favorite candy bar. I am curious to see how close they got with this to an actual Snickers bar. I get where they were going with this, but this isn't like the other two cheesecakes where the Hershey's or the Reese's were good attempts at trying to kind of cheesecakeify a candy bar or dessert like that. This is really just caramel chocolate cheesecake with some Snickers pieces on there. There's nuts for texture, and it is appreciated, and obviously there's caramel in there as well. They have the elements of a Snickers bar. It also looks like there's some kind of like a fudge bottom. It's definitely dense. I'm gonna have to say right off the initial impression here that if you're a big Snickers fan, you might be a little underwhelmed by this one. If you ordered this, you wouldn't be disappointed. If you were to have closed your eyes and not known that this was Snickers inspired and just kind of thought that it was maybe like a salted caramel peanut chocolate kind of deal, I think that you'd be happy with this cheesecake. But as it stands, it being a Snickers inspired cheesecake, and maybe I'm a little biased because of how much of a fan I am of actual Snickers, I think it's just a little off. I have figured out the missing equation from this Snickers cheesecake, and it's nougat. There's no nougat in this, and the reason why is because they had to replace it, obviously, with cheesecake, but the lack of that element in this is what's kind of throwing off the intention of it being a Snickers cheesecake. Yeah, nougat is what's missing from this. The one thing that I will say that I liked about this slice of cheesecake as I got through it, and it kind of helped cut through some of that rich unctuousness that is cheesecake, is the caramel and salted peanuts. It helps a lot with the sweetness and the richness of this cheesecake. The salt complements it, and it balances out the overall flavor of it. Last bite. This is the last one, and it has the most elements of all the other ones in it, which is kind of why I saved it for last.
We ate an entire cheesecake 2 days ago, and you want more?
Well, I've forgotten what it tastes like, okay?
You have Butterfinger in here, you have Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, you have caramel, you have chocolate. It's pretty much a hodgepodge of some of the other flavors that we did, and I'm curious to see whether or not all of those ingredients kind of marry well together and make for a better experience, or if it ends up being kind of one of those too much inside of one element. Let's see how it stacks up. I'm not getting a ton of the Butterfinger, which to me, even though I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Butterfingers as a candy, I feel like the crunch and the textural element that would have added to this is needed. We'll see how it is once I get to the rest of it, but on initial impression, I'm kind of missing the Butterfinger portion of this. When I initially saw the write-up for this, it being the peanut butter cups and then the Butterfinger and then the caramel and the peanut butter element, I knew that there was going to be a lot going on with this, and in my mind I actually thought it was going to be like multiple layers, multiple textures, multiple notes, and it's actually a little underwhelming if I'm being honest. It's peanut butter forward, you don't get much of the caramel, and you get some of the chunks of the peanut butter cups, which is nice when you get them. It adds a little bit of a textural element, but I'm getting almost none of the Butterfinger. You see it aesthetically on there. You see like the kind of crumbles. I think that they would have been better off chunking it up in bigger pieces like they did with the Snickers one. It's just a peanut butter chocolate cheesecake, and nothing about it really screams any of the other components that are in it. And if I were to have to pick between this one and the other kind of peanut butter chocolate cheesecake that they have, I would say that I preferred the Reese's. Overall, it was a tasty cheesecake, but I don't think it would be one that I would order again for all of the elements that you had there. Between the peanut butter cups, the caramel, the chocolate, the Butterfinger, it just wasn't enough of any one of those elements to really work. I think that this just fell short. It was good in theory, just not in practice. So that's the end of the battle. And for my money, it's pretty obvious who the two winners are. I would go with the Hershey's chocolate candy bar cheesecake or the Reese's peanut butter cup cheesecake. The other two, in my opinion, there was just not enough of any one element or anything about them that stood out, and I wouldn't go out of my way to get those again. But the chocolate one and the Reese's peanut butter cup one, both of those were delicious. They were not only just my favorite of the bunch, but some of my most favorite cheesecakes I think that I've ever had, not even just from Cheesecake Factory. So I'm not going to necessarily declare a winner here. This is more or less your mileage may vary. If you're team chocolate, you're obviously going to like the Hershey's, and if you're team peanut butter, you're definitely going to like the Reese's. I think for me, that Reese's peanut butter cup was it. It's enough peanut butter, enough balance of salt, enough balance of chocolate that if I had to pick one, if they were both in front of me, I would definitely go back more readily to the Reese's peanut butter cup one. But again, your mileage may vary. We also got to factor in kind of the value as well as the calorie count, because both of those things, factor into our decisions when it comes to dessert and, what it is that we eat, right? Up here, we'll have the calorie count for you guys. These are all pretty close. They range from about $12.50 to about $15.00, and the same goes for the value of these. They're about $8.50 to about $9. So that's a pretty good value for what it is that you're getting, because you're definitely getting your money's worth with any of those cheesecakes, definitely more so with the Hershey's and the Reese's, and you're absolutely getting your value's worth in the calorie department, because these are not only rich in the pocket, they're rich in the stomach as well. So that about wraps up the cheesecake battle for us. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to smash that like button. Also, if you're not following the page already, make sure to become a subscriber and turn on the notifications so that you can stay up to date with what we have going on the channel. Follow us on Instagram. We're always posting new content to get ideas for future videos. We would love to hear from you guys. And remember, from us here at Fast Food Face Off, if you are what you eat, always eat amazing.